After the American Indians, the Mormon pioneers traveled well over 1,000 miles to reach the Salt Lake Valley and make this their new home. The Mormons moved from New York to Ohio, then to Illinois. Many people did not like them because of their religious beliefs. It upset people who were not Mormons. Unfortunately, the Mormons had problems with their neighbors over politics and land. The Mormons all voted the same way, and that gave them a lot of power. They bought large pieces of land of farming, and their neighbors thought they were getting way too powerful. The neighbors also heard some of the Mormons married more than one wife. This was called polygamy, and the people were really angry about this. As a result, the Mormons were driven out of towns. Their crops, houses, and barns were set on fire. Their horses and cattle were stolen, and people were even killed in fights. The anger in the people reached a boiling point, and a mob in Illinois shot and killed Joseph Smith and his brother Hiram. Governor Ford would not protect the Mormons and suggested to them to leave. Brigham Young was the leader of the Mormons, and he wanted to journey to Utah for 2 reasons. First, because it was isolated and the Mormons could finally be left alone. And second, the land was a hard natural environment and other pioneers would pass it by. At this time, Utah was not part of the United States. It was part of Mexico. Before the pioneers left, there was much preparation to be done before moving west. They had to move 15,000 people, 3,000 wagons, and 30,000 cattle, mules, and horses over 1,000 miles. Wow! The pioneers traveled west to the edge of the Missouri River, and their first stop was a place called Winter Quarters. They built log cabins and waited till spring during the winter of 1846 before continuing on their journey. The pioneers washed their clothes in the rivers along the trail. Did you know that the first group that left Winter Quarters consisted of 148 people, and they were called the Advanced Party? It took them 3.5 months to get to Utah. The people packed their wagons with seeds, plows, shovels, axes, and saws. They took clothing, blankets, and a large fishing boat filled with nets and fishing rods. The pioneers had to walk about 15 miles a day, and that was in good weather. Wyoming and Utah had many large mountains to cross, which made things very difficult for the pioneers. Three of the pioneers were African American slaves. One of these 3 men drove Brigham Young into the valley. His name was Green Flake. Green Flake helped the pioneers to plant crops and build houses. He joined the LDS Church in 1843. Many Mormons were against slavery. These are some of Green Flake's descendants. By the time the railroad came to Utah, more than 80,000 immigrants had journeyed there, coming in wagon trains or by hand carts. Isn't that amazing? The wagons served as tents on wheels, and only very small children were able to ride in them. Most of the people walked beside them. Women and children slept and dressed inside the wagon. The camp had rules to follow. A bugle sounded at 5 a.m. in the morning to get up and cook breakfast, and the pioneers were on the trail by 7 a.m. Usually they traveled 12 long hours a day. For protection, the wagon trains camped in a circle at night. In the evening, after the chores were completed, the pioneers would gather together around the campfire. They would sing, play music, dance, and tell stories. The pioneers traveled in covered wagons and pulling handcarts while leaving messages on the trails for those who came later. On the trail, everyone had jobs to do, even small children. The men took care of the wagons and all the repairs, pushing up steep hills, taking care of the animals, hunting and fishing for food. The women took care of the children, cooked the supper and the next day's lunch. They gave birth on the trails, washed, mended, and cleaned all the clothes. Crossing the rivers were very dangerous for the pioneers. They made rafts for the wagons and floated them across by hand and used ropes to tie them so they would not float downstream. Children of all ages helped to gather fuel. They collected dry buffalo dung. They broke them into pieces and they burned very well. Some of the pioneers got very sick with Rocky Mountain fever and cholera, a disease from contaminated water that killed many people. There was no doctor on the trail, so when a person broke a bone, they placed uneven splints around that area to hold it in place. Other major killers were caused from children falling out of the wagons and getting run over, axe wounds, drowning, and accidental shootings. The journey for the pioneers was long, exhausting, tiresome, and very hazardous. The Martin Handcart Company left too late in the summer, and they got caught in heavy snow. Many of the families ended up burying their loved ones, getting frostbite while traveling the treacherous trails trying to reach Utah.